Hello, everyone. Welcome to Mythical Entertainment Podcasts. I'm your host, Mithrandiel, and today I am joined by a couple of my colleagues to discuss the spring season. It's now wrapped up, and we're going to have a little brief chat here about the shows that didn't stack up, shows that we loved, and shows that we are looking forward to in the summer season. So I am joined by a couple of my colleagues. Go ahead and introduce yourselves, guys.
I'm Scarlette. Hi.
And I'm Archmage. What's up?
All right. So for me, this season, it was pretty disappointing for me. There were a lot of shows that I think we were really looking forward to, and a lot of them ended up meandering aimlessly through the middle of the season, and some just straight up failed. And so
the hype train didn't deliver.
Yeah, the hype train derailed. Many were killed. Not many survivors.
It was awful.
Yeah,
I think you guys are being a little too harsh, but whatever.
Yeah, well, okay, Archmage, you've kind of consolidated our list. We had a lot of shows we talked about at the beginning of the season. So to refresh some of our memories about that, go ahead and go through some of the shows we talked about briefly. And maybe what we were hoping from them or what you got out of the season from those shows.
All right. Well, with my list, I mean, it's not going to really be apparent that my viewpoint is different than yours. I just think that to put it into perspective, having 15 plus series that we're looking at the beginning and still getting like a solid 4 or 5 out of them that we watched all the way through. That's a pretty good ratio when you consider
it. 33%. That's an F, bro. I wouldn't want to take that home.
It's not when it comes to. It's not that bad when you think about previous seasons. I bet if you go back and you look at certain seasons, you're going to find ones that it's like 1 or 2 standouts. When you have 5 of 15, that's still pretty good.
No, you know what? I know we're supposed to be doing top 3. I didn't even get a top 3.
Oh, that's harsh.
We'll get to that in a minute.
That's harsh. And you had some ones that you were really excited about. All right. Well,
I know, yeah.
Anyways, all right. So let's go down the list. So we had My Hero Academia, definitely the breakout from this season. I think everybody's really excited to see where this one goes. Followed up by ReZero, which again, that's another breakout one that I think everybody's really excited about. It's faltering a little bit, unfortunately, but we still got another 24 episodes. We're only halfway through total of 24 episodes.
Yeah, we have another 12 episodes to go. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So it's still a solid series, but we'll get to that. Then there's Kisnivers, which we are split 2 against 1 for, because I don't seem to have as much of a problem with it as you guys do. But
I've turned around. It's no longer my most disappointing. We'll talk about that in a minute.
I still have choice opinions.
Then there is Netoge, and You Thought There's Never a Girl Online. That was one that I talked about at the beginning. I think you guys jumped on board after episodes 3 or 4, something like that. So I think that was kind of my dark horse as far as this season was concerned. Then we had Asterisk War Season 2, Lost Village, 100, Tanaka-kun, Big Order, Cerberus, Bungo Stray Dogs, I Am Sakamoto, and Joker Game, all of which we're going to talk about more. But those are kind of the highlights that we went over at the beginning of the year from what I remember. Is there anything that I'm missing?
No, that sounds about right. But before
there was Twin Star Exorcists, I think, as well, but I didn't.
I totally left Twin Star Exorcists behind. But before we go any further,
episode 3.
We are right. Episode 2.5. Before we go any further, there are going to be some spoilers going forward in this podcast. We are going to be discussing the seasons in their entirety, or maybe spoiling things from the end of the season. So if you have not finished your spring series, please do so before listening to the rest of this podcast. So that being said, Archmage, what was the show that was most disappointing for you? What was the show that you were really looking forward to, and it just fell flat for you?
Most disappointing for me. So this is actually a tie between 3 of them that I had high hopes for, that just totally. I found myself passing them over when going down my list of anime,
right.
And then I got to a point where I had like 3 or 4 episodes that I was behind on. I'm just like, I don't really care.
I don't want to
And
watch the backlog.
Yeah.
It's a
Exactly.
chore.
So,
yeah.
it's when it became a chore for me. That's when I knew there was a problem. And the way I'm rating these is my most disappointing are the ones that I had the highest hopes for based on the first 2 episodes. So we had Bungo Stray Dogs, Joker Game, and I Am Sakamoto. So
Yeah.
those 3 are my most disappointing, all for the exact same reason. I wanted to like these. I really, really, really wanted to like these. I gave them each a few episodes, but again, it was a chore to try and catch up, and I had no desire to.
Okay. So just a quick comment on I Am Sakamoto. I agree with you. I was very, very excited. I was really enjoying I Am Sakamoto at the beginning of the season, but then as I fell behind in the episodes, I was like, yeah, like I'll watch it and it'll be zany and crazy, and I'll probably still go back and watch them, but like I wasn't really motivated to do so. Like it didn't. I mean, I think because it's so episodic, and this is an issue with another show that I'm going to talk about in a minute, but because it was so episodic and so disjointed, it was harder for me to get back into it. Unlike other comedy series like Azumanga Daioh or something that has somewhat of a plot kind of moving underneath it to keep you coming back and seeing where the characters are going to go. So that's what I think did it for me with Sakamoto was the fact that it was just kind of disjointed, and ultimately I was like, it's a lot of fun, but I just wasn't as committed to it.
So here's the thing about Sakamoto. Sorry, Scarlett, I'll let you go in a second. But with Sakamoto, for me at least, it was that the exact reason that I stated in our first podcast about this season, which is it could be good, but it could get really stale really fast if it's just the same thing every single week, which is what it turned out.
Yeah.
So, sorry.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Called it.
For me though, like Sakamoto was one of those series where like you have to be in a particular mood to see it. So I'm not labeling it as a disappointment for me, but it's definitely one of those series where you're either gonna binge watch the hell out of it, or you're gonna kind of like nitpick it every so often when you remember that it's there. So it sits in middle ground for me. Not a disappointment, but was it something that I was like, oh dude, it's out this week? No.
Yeah, absolutely.
It didn't need to. I think the biggest problem is it didn't need to be a full 24 minutes. If they split it up into those mini 7-minute episodes, the 7-minute mini series that they were doing for a little bit back in I think a couple seasons ago, I think it would have really worked as something like that. Just small little slices.
You know what it reminded me of too, like a good format for that. Have you guys watched I Can't Understand What My Husband Is Saying?
Yes, I love that one.
Yes. Okay.
Did you guys watch
so
the censored version or the uncensored version?
Whatever's on Crunchyroll, I think they're uncensored. I don't remember, but yeah. So that kind of format, I think, would be amazing for Sakamoto. Like little 3-4 minute snippets of him doing all the cool things he does. That would be a lot more fun, like to keep up with, I think. But anyways, we're digressing a little bit. But what about you, Scarlett? What was your disappointment of the season?
I'm kind of sitting in between two. The one where I just I was rooting for. I stuck it out to episode 11 because I really wanted it to work. Was Bungo Stray Dogs. I really, you have no idea.
Before the last episode, really?
You should watch the last episode. The last episode is
okay. Should I then?
Yes,
I probably will then.
You should.
I was just I struck I think it was from episode 7 on over was when I really started struggling with the series because it was just so rinse and repeat where it was just here's a member of the crew. Let's go throw them in an episode and see what their powers are. Rinse, repeat. And you kind of lose that overarching character development that almost started at the beginning of the series and then just fell really flat because they threw in a really big cast and everyone had to have individual episodes and your main character just felt dumber and dumber each time.
Yeah.
So,
they did lose track of him. I mean, I will say that was one of the ones I was concerned about for a while because they kind of stepped away from the whole Were Tiger thing and they didn't really give Atsushi a chance to develop as a character. But the last episodes, I feel like the last episodes were actually done really well, and especially the finale, you need to watch it.
okay.
You need to watch the finale because it's got some great action in it, and it's setting things up for the next season, and it's kind of
Oh God, I got it next season.
yeah. Well, I mean, if there was a next season, it's like really setting it up well. So I don't. It's not going to be summer, obviously, but maybe for winter or spring, or next spring. I mean fall or winter.
Whatever it is.
There might be another. I know my seasons are. Yeah, whatever it is.
No, with I think with Bungo Stray Dogs, it's kind of the same problem I have with Joker Game. Is it's I guess two sides of the same coin.
Yep,
Joker
that's
Game,
why I totally stopped with Joker Game as well. Rinse and repeat. That's super
exactly.
Yeah.
And on top of that, Joker Game had a problem where you had a bunch of characters who didn't have distinct personalities, so you didn't really care about anyone. But Bungo Stray Dogs is on the opposite side of that coin, where you have super distinct characters, but they try to give them all like even screen time,
right?
And they kind of cast their main. And you brought this up, Myth, that the main character kind of gets thrown by the wayside. And with a series like, especially with Bungo Stray Dogs, where you have such distinct personalities, you have to have a strong main character that your viewers can empathize with and you like over everybody else. If your main character isn't your favorite character, then something's wrong with your series. And I think I've said that before, that if you don't like the main character,
if the main character
your side
could die and nobody would care, you're doing it wrong.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
and that was kind of at the point that I got to. Now you mentioned Joker Game briefly, and that's mine for the season. That's my disappointment of the season for a couple of reasons you were mentioning. It got very episodic. And the premise was so interesting that they could have done so much more with that universe, with those characters. And the argument is that they're not supposed to be distinguishable because they're spies. So people are like, "Ooh, it's like real spies," like you don't know who this person is. And I'm like, that's not entertaining. Like if I don't know who this person is, I don't care if they live or die. I don't understand their motivations. I don't, like it was hard to connect. I mean, I liked some of the political intrigue that was going on and like spy against spy that was happening, but there was just not. I couldn't piece it all together. So it was really.
They were also really disjointed too. I mean, like you got so many different episodes where everyone was like doing different missions, even though technically it was all supposed to weave together for that finale at the end. It just didn't do it. Like way too many loose ends that went in a couple of different directions that didn't come together at the end. It was just messy.
Yeah, I agree. So yeah, Joker Game was my disappointment. However, I was able to salvage a top 3 out of here. I know Scarlett wasn't able to get that many, but I did get.
I made up for it with 4, so don't worry. I'll steal one of hers.
Okay. I did get a top 3, and actually my number 3 is Bungo Stray Dogs. And the reason for this is, I was worried that it was wandering a bit there in the middle. However, the characters sold the show for me. It's a great blend of comedy and action. 1 minute I was like really enthralled with the fight scene. The next minute I was like doubled over because, Desire is doing something ridiculous again. So I really liked the banter. I liked the interpersonal relationships in the series. And really, for me, it just charmed its way through the season, even when there wasn't much going on. Like, even when it got to a point where it's like, okay, I just spent 24 minutes and I don't really think we did anything. But, you just kind of got to spend time with those characters. I will say, though, the final, 3 episodes or so, like from when the Snow, I forgot the name of the character, but she has like that Snow Assassin gifted ability.
The cell girl, right?
Yeah, like the ship for Atsushi. Yeah. So,
speaking of ships, guys.
No, we're not getting into the Kisna. No, not yet.
But we'll get there.
Yeah, eventually. So that was really solid, especially the finale. So I was really sold on the finale. I think it pushed its way up into number 3 with that, and overall it was pretty entertaining. Again, a lot of the shows suffered from the same symptoms this season, of some meandering. Like around episodes 4 through 7, I don't think there was a single show that was doing well, except for like ReZero and My Hero Academia. But every other show was like what are we doing here? What? Huh? Who are these people?
Why do I care?
Yeah, why do I care? It was really tough. But yeah, so that's my number 3. Scarlett, what is your third or second or whatever your one of your favorites?
Whatever my list.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I'll hold off on it, and we can go into a little later when we dig into Kisniver. If I absolutely had to give a third one, it would be Kisniver, but that's very grudgingly, I will say. Okay. Very grudgingly.
All right. Well, I mean, we can go into it now if you want. I mean, if you want to grudgingly give Kisniver the number 3 spot, you could tell us why you're giving it to it grudgingly.
Grudgingly, just because I have to fill out a number. Look, Kisniver definitely wasn't one of those shows where I was tuning in every week because like I cared and I really wanted to know what's happening and I was totally into the show. Kisniver was that show that I was tuning into every week, trying to figure out what the was happening.
Yeah.
And not in a good way. Like it was just like I said at the beginning of the season, like Trigger hyped this series like nobody's business, and I was on that hype train, and I think I fell off my hype train about 3rd episode in, and I'm gonna call it like what it is. Like Kisniver should have been a slice of life story. It should have been, given the premise of bonding and everything else that was in that show. But Trigger doesn't know how to do slice of life stories. They know how to do big, flashy, in your face, a little off the walls. So they threw that flair onto a slice of life story, and it just didn't meld well at all.
Yeah. I will say Kisniver almost made my top 3. Kisniver was almost my 3. And I think it made a decent enough recovery in the final episodes, especially with the voice actors. I think the voice actors drove home a lot of the really emotional scenes in the final episodes. And as you said, and as we've discussed before, there was a lot of hype to live up to as the follow-up project to Kill la Kill. It was a different kind of series, but it became hard at some points to distinguish how much of that emotional weight was the result of good storytelling and how much of it was the result of a Pavlov-like reaction to the Kisna, which is something that I wrote about on the site already, that, everyone's Kisnas would go off when someone felt sad. And so you were supposed to feel sad. Or somebody's Kisna went off when they were feeling romantic feelings, and you were supposed to be like, oh, they're romantic for each other.
It was also forced. It was shoved down your throat. It didn't feel natural.
Right. And so, and again,
that's not technically the point.
How deep can we go, right? Like the sort of Inception idea, like, well, is that the point, right? Are you part of this experiment with the show where you're like, oh, am I feeling these emotions because I feel them, or am I feeling them because this thing went up? I don't know. Maybe I'm being too self-aware, going too meta or something.
I don't know. You guys, I don't know what your guys' problem is with Kisniver. I mean, personally, I like this series a lot, I mean, I think having this particular ending is really the only way they could have gone with the story, unless they wanted to just...
It ended very cleanly. It ended very cleanly.
Yeah.
It ended very neatly. But
it ended predictably.
It stuck.
Okay, what was the other option? The other option is they just pandered all the shippers out there. That was the only other way they could have gone, and I don't think
they could have just killed Nori, and we would have been done with it.
I wouldn't mind if they pandered to my ship. But anyways,
my redheads made it. I don't care what you guys say. For everyone else listening to that podcast, I was shipping Chidori and Tenga like nobody's business.
Nico and Tenga deserve to be together, and they will fight it out on the beach. Nico said so. They're going to fight it out on the beach, and they're going to be friends, and she's going to take Tango from her. But anyways, I'm getting way too distracted on this.
All right, so let me go off on Kisniver, because that made my number 4 spot. So
okay, talk about it.
So one reason why I don't think this is any higher for me is that one thing that hurt the series is that it only got half a season. They probably could have expanded more on some of the interpersonal themes with more time. We kind of got started. We kind of got this little stuff about each of the characters, but not the interpersonal relationships with each one of them. Yuta didn't get anything outside his crush on Maki, who got 2 episodes with her own issue. Hisomu didn't only really got his intro episode. That was kind of like the side perspective, which was fine for his character.
Yeah.
Tenga in the beginning was seemingly like best friends with Agata, which was great, and we had very few interactions with him after the first few episodes, and instead they focused on his crush with Chidori, and then he became like the muscle, and that was
and
it.
then he became Agata's romantic rival, and then they like weren't
Sort
friends
of.
anymore. Like I don't
know. If they were all friends, I think they should have had more interactions between each of them. Tenga chatting with Yuta, Nico with Hisomu. Outside of that last episode, I suppose, but Maki having not having interactions with really anyone, I kind of get, because she's supposed to be the outsider of everyone, but she got 2 full episodes about her, like, her issues.
Yeah. I think Maki was a big role in Kisniver because she was so standoffish and aloof. I mean, that was like her type, is like the aloof one, right? Like they were trying to break through that shell. So I think that's why she got a bit more time.
So I think Maki was one of the creators' favorites, to be honest, because I don't think her character was interesting enough to focus on as much as the other characters. So, but to me, these are all just nitpicks that could have been fixed with small, like 15 to 30-second scenes thrown in certain spots, just to better define the group of friendship outside of those Kizuna marks, which are probably, just all these little scenes are probably just lying on the cutting room floor because they only had 24 minutes. Again, going back to, this is only a half season, 13 episodes. It probably could have gone more, but I think they did fine with the screen time they were given. Yeah. Overall, I think they were able to capture this whole theme of empathy very well. You guys say, oh yeah, it's just supposed to be a Pavlovian response to the Kizuna mark, but I don't think that at all. I think it kind of showed that these characters did develop a little bit more outside of the Kizuna mark. It just seemed like, that was the spark that brought them all together, and then everybody, kind of figured it out after that.
I mean, this is the argument they all had in the last episode with Nori as they were on a bridge.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know, but I also like that in the end, not everybody paired off. It's more realistic that way, in my opinion. Though,
it is.
I do think that Nico and Tenga should have happened. That's
sorry.
Yeah,
my ship sailed, guys. Don't be jealous.
I'm gonna torpedo that ship.
Your ship totally didn't happen. What are you talking about?
My ship totes happened.
No, it's crashed and sank.
No,
it's taking off. It's taking off. All right, Archmage. What was besides Kisniver, since you have 4? What was your number 3 then?
My number
the list proper.
It's going to be really short, but my number 3 is Netoge. Okay. I'm just going to say I told you guys so. I know that you guys jumped on board halfway through the season. And this is one I watched a few episodes for, and then I just couldn't stop waiting for the next one to come out. And I'm sad it's done. It's a nice, closed, contained series, but I really want to see more of what these characters do. But I'm glad they're not going any further, because I think it could get old, really, with any more. I don't see what else they could do with it, to be honest. But very, very established characters who stayed true to themselves the whole time. The main character, Rusian, he, even though he's surrounded by girls, he only has eyes for one of them, and it's only ever one of them. And it's not a harem series, even though it definitely has the setup to be a harem series. They never go that direction, which I applaud it for. I'm glad that they just stuck with. I mean, if you want a series with a one true pairing, they actually do only have a one true pairing throughout the whole thing. So, and the comedy's great. The way they're doing that whole real life in a game, kind of, but it's a nice little twist on it, since that is the flavor of the year apparently. And we're getting so many series like that, which isn't a problem, because I happen to really like that genre. It's really interesting to me.
All right.
But yeah, I think Netoge, if you haven't seen it, definitely check it out. It's worth it.
Okay. Scarlett, what's your number 2 then?
I'm actually
put Kisniver on.
Kisniver on 3. I'm actually in agreement with Archmage for this. You never thought there was a girl online was definitely like my dark horse series where I was just like, I've got some time to kill. Well, why not? Let's watch it. And I think I was like 4 episodes behind when it first started, and I went through 4 episodes like nobody's business. It was just so good. And like everything that Archmage has to say about it is pretty much everything I enjoyed about the series. Like it didn't go into the harem direction. There is an OTP. It stays true to OTP. It's nice. You cheer for it. And then like furthermore, I think I kind of made this, we had a discussion about it at some point, or maybe I mentioned it in mid-season wrap or mid-season, is I find it super appealing because in this day and age where everybody's online, we've all dealt with this in one point or another, whether it's a relationship you've had or a relationship your friends had, or you know somebody who's had this relationship one way or another. Like it's so relatable, and that you find yourself laughing at these guys in this situation because you're just like, oh yeah, I've been there before. I've seen this play out before. I absolutely. It's so easy to empathize and sympathize with the characters.
Yeah.
I've seen enough hentai to know where this is going.
It's not, oh my god, it's not even like that. Yes, there's some fan service, but it's really not like that.
I know. I'm just being facetious. All right. So Netsuge is your number 2. My number 2 for the season was ReZero, and it was my number 1 for a long time. But was
Till this week
until ultimately was bumped. Stellar animation, amazing voice acting. I actually used it as a case study against Kisniver in terms of how you do good emotional storytelling. For the episode, I broke down, I cried, and I cried some more when Subaru basically was like,
I cried.
I cried.
Such a good episode.
It was a great episode.
God.
It was a great episode.
It was an amazing episode.
They dedicated that whole episode just to his emotional breakdown.
Yeah, and it was also, and again, like unlike Kisniver, which felt manufactured and fake, it all was very real. It all was very relatable. Like, I think we've all been at that point where we're like, we put on a happy face, we're putting on a strong face. And sometimes we don't have the benefit of the person who can see through that and give us a moment to have that breakdown. And so when Amelia and Subaru had that moment, it was so powerful. It was just an amazing episode, and the show was absolutely the breakout show. Absolutely stood head and shoulders above the rest. But the finale,
is this the finale, or are we getting? Is it continuing in summer?
It is. It isn't
straight through.
It's going
straight through.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay. Well, that's good. Well, the most recent episode to cap out spring, at least, was kind of disappointing.
Everything we just said about that one episode, that one emotionally charged, raw episode, is like the exact opposite in this. Everything you do right with emotion can be encapsulated in that one breakdown episode he had, but then he has this one, which is just, what? It's out of left field. It's so forced. It's so rushed.
I think what it is Subaru is, like, we've built up Subaru to be this like otherworldly guy, and not because he has superpowers, but because he's been through so much suffering and he's so selfless a lot of the time. And so to see him caught up in these petty conflicts with Julius over, Amelia's heart or feelings or whatever it is, like to see him get jealous and to see him like just fail completely over these things is like, dude, you're better than this. Like, this is really embarrassing. Like, I don't know. It seems kind of out of character.
It was really hard for me to watch.
Yeah.
Like, that episode was really hard to watch. Not because it was terrible, but because you're just like, Subaru, you know better. It was just, you watch stupid unfold second by second, and you were like, I can't, this train wreck. Oh God. Like,
I think it had to happen. Like, his whole interaction with Amelia at the end there had to happen at some point. He does feel, he has gone through this timeline several different times, so he does probably feel a little bit of entitlement that she should feel indebted to him in some way, or at least some sort of connection where she respects him. And this was going to come and break down. I just think that this was the wrong episode to do that in.
Yeah.
And I think also that we're kind of at a turning point, because this how do I say this? I'm worried that it's going to go in a bad direction because Subaru could easily take the easy way out. He could just go jump off a cliff, drink some poison, slit his wrists, whatever, and just start all over with this.
Right.
But if you establish that, then he can continue to take the easy way out, and it kind of changes his character a little bit. And it's like, well, why now? Us as the audience have to keep asking, well, why don't you just go back and reset? Why are you continuing to struggle? Your struggle means absolutely nothing if you just have the resolve now to end it all, go back and try again.
Right.
I think we're forgetting though he did do that mid-season. He jumped off a cliff before.
Yes, but that was a very emotional and charged moment for him. He had to make the decision to go back and fix something, and up until then it had been a big deal for him to die, and it was him getting over the fear of doing that with a reason to do that. But now it's just kind of like it would be very cheap, in my opinion.
Well, we'll see. I mean, I think it would be a very interesting commentary on suicide, actually. Just in general, like the idea that Subaru has kind of hit rock bottom. He's in this world that he doesn't understand. He just got left by the only girl that he really cares about. He's been embarrassed, all this other stuff. Like, he really doesn't have much to live for, but he knows he has the ability to fix it or make it right by killing himself and starting over. And so that's, and I mentioned this briefly in the Harmony review, but I mean, Japan has a serious suicide problem. And I just think it's an interesting concept, kind of as a sidebar, in ReZero with, Subaru's deaths. As you said, most of the time he was getting killed, but then he made that one decision to jump off the cliff to reset. And that was a very powerful and charged moment. If they do take it to him killing himself voluntarily to do these resets more often, I don't know if it'll necessarily cheapen it. I think it'd be a very
I'm just
commentary on when is it okay? Like, when is it okay? Like, okay, this is like a point where I have to start over, so I'm going to kill myself and go back until I get the result that I want in life.
I agree. I think it could go the direction that I think Groundhog's Day went in, where it became they had a good character arc, even though you start doing that eventually. I think they could do it correctly. I just think it's a dangerous place to go because you could easily fall into the trap of us divesting our interest in what he's doing in the moment because it doesn't matter anymore.
Right. All right. So we, Archmage, I think we need to hit your number 2, right?
That is my 2.
ReZero is your number 2.
Yeah.
Okay.
ReZero is my number 2.
All right then. Done.
More, please. That's it.
Scarlett, what was your number 1 from this season?
ReZero.
Okay.
Yay!
Shortest podcast ever.
No, it was ReZero for all the reasons that we already discussed. And I mean, like, if anyone read our mid-season ones, ReZero was the one where I was like, what were you doing with your life, Scarlett? Like, what shows were you watching besides ReZero? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it was definitely one of those shows that is my favorite, and it was really the only one that I was tuning into consistently every week to make sure I watched.
Yeah, I think it was, besides My Hero Academia, it was the only show I was like actively looking for every week. Which brings me to my number 1 on the list, which is My Hero Academia. So My Hero Academia was fantastic, just from start to finish. The pacing is amazing. The animation is, I can't say that the animation is as good as ReZero, because it's just not true. It's a shonen series. It's not animated the same. It's featuring very different styles and that sort of thing. However, it is well animated for the genre and for the medium. And the characters are all very distinguished. They didn't try to spread out all that time because, again, they're building this world that they fully expect to last quite a long time. And so, it's kind of like if you go back and watch the first 15, 20 episodes of One Piece or Naruto or Bleach, kind of getting an idea of, this cursory world and these characters and everything else. That's the feeling that you got. And All Might's,
but better.
yeah,
Better.
but better.
You did it way better than those. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that the quirk mechanic, the superhero structure, everything else is being fleshed out really, really well. And man, that fight against Nomu at the end, and All Might's plus Ultra Punch. I don't think I've been that hyped during an anime fight. Well, actually, it hasn't been too long because One Punch Man, but
I don't know. This is pretty epic. Even compared to One Punch.
It was definitely a moment, like a standout moment. Like 100, 150 episodes, 200 episodes from now, you will remember this moment. And yeah, I mean, it was just tremendous. It was a great show, and it was my standout of this season for sure. And Patrick, I think, or Archmage, I think you are in agreement with me on this one.
Totally. My Hero Academia takes my number one spot. It's I stayed up until 3 a.m. in the morning every Sunday so I could get it as soon as it was released. It's probably one of the only series. It's the first series in a long time that I've been this excited to watch every week. I think that the pacing is absolutely perfect. I think the first 6 episodes that they took to just get you introduced to the main character and to what the meat of the story was going to be was incredible. Like, I don't think I've ever seen a shonen fighting series take this long to get from start of the series, introducing your main character, to he's the special in some way. You knew he was going to be, but they didn't tell you how until like episode 2 or 3. Right. And it's the pace, like, just I cannot go on more about the pacing. Now, this series is going kind of on the animation, where you kind of saying that it is a shonen fighting series. It's a little bit we can't expect a whole lot from it. I think we can, and they've shown us that we can, just with that scene that you were talking about, where he the fight with Nomu and All Might. Bones, this is done by Studio Bones. They did a really good job, and I know that they're on a budget and a time crunch to get this pushed out. So I think if you go back and watch that episode, you can kind of see leading up to it, you're like, all right, there's a lot of static images, there's a lot of quick small action sequences here and there, minimalistic animation, but then you get to that fight. Once they started getting into that, you knew that they saved all of their money and all of their effort to put into that, and it really shows. It's a phenomenal sequence, and they're doing a fantastic job with it. My biggest thing I'm upset with this is we don't have more. It's only 13 episodes, and I don't know when they're coming out with season 2. It's been announced, but I don't know when it's going to happen, and I'm so pissed.
Yeah, they did announce it at the end of the finale. Yeah, and
God.
Yeah, it'll be a long wait, but I know that once they get more of this traction, I think they're trying to build out a bit more of that manga buffer to kind of catch up with.
So they don't have to go into filler arcs, I bet.
Yeah. Speaking of which, we're in filler again with One Piece.
So on a side note for My Hero Academia, so this is one of the first series that I've seen where they're actually doing an active dub for it. Funimation is actually on episode 8 of the dub, and I'm watching it with my son, who's 8 years old, and he absolutely loves this series. This is the first anime series that we're watching in real time, and he's just every Wednesday he's excited to watch another episode, and I'm probably going to go and watch it with him as soon as we're done with this. But yeah, he's like absolutely ecstatic to watch this. He actually wants to dress up as Bakugo for Halloween, so he loves.
That's cute. That's awesome. And I think it was surprisingly emotional early on. Like, it really delivered that message, like the scene where All Might tells Deku or Midoriya that he can be a hero, gets me every time. Like, I can't watch that scene anymore. And because
I'm not crying, you're crying.
yeah, exactly. And yeah, preview of
watch for the
upcoming
podcast.
Watch for the podcast coming soon to a theater near you. No, but yeah, that scene, it's just so well structured because a lot of shonen series they kind of fall into that trap of, hey, flashy action, all this stuff, like I believe I can do it, and then they get knocked down. And, no, you can do it. You're the special one, and then they triumph or succeed or whatever. But
that's really all shonen series. They don't go into like the emotional development. That's just how it is. Like,
yeah. And so the fact that they really took the time to show Midoriya's upbringing as someone who idolized heroes and idolized All Might and people with quirks and wanted to do that, and then just the utter heart-shattering despair and sadness when he realized that he could not do that. And like, not that, he didn't take that and say, okay, I'm going to like make myself a superhero by like coming up with weapons like Syndrome or something from The Incredibles. Like, he just accepted it. Like, he wasn't going to be a hero like that, It was only when, when the show got started that he started thinking, okay, like, do you think I can do it, when he asks All Might, etc. So, I think that's so important. And it lent a lot to Midoriya standing out as a character, and and My Hero Academia standing out as a shonen series by taking the time and being so deliberate in establishing that world and those characters. So,
well, here's the other thing.
Fantastic job.
Yeah, here's the other thing that makes Midoriya's character so interesting is the fact that he didn't have powers at all. He wasn't going to get powers.
Right.
They established him as a character who was, he was a nothing character, but he kept trying and he had the attitude to do it, but he was never going to get those powers. And he didn't fall into the trap that most shonen fighting series do, where it's like, oh, he's unlocked his super ultimate power thing all of the sudden and he's super awesome and all that.
Yeah.
No, he had to have this power. He had to be given this power.
And
it's kind of the
power
same.
is hard to control. Like, it's not like
Exactly.
I might give him this power and then all of a sudden he's like, that's right, bitches. Like, and he's just like taking out people left and right. Like, he breaks his bones. Like, this is a painful power. Like, this is not something he knows how to control yet. And I think that is really, it's really important. It's funny because like the manifestation of the power is like the embodiment of the pacing of the show. It's like to say,
Absolutely.
he's not just gonna just come out of the gates and be like All Might. He breaks his bones when he punches things. Like, he needs to learn how to control it. And even when he knows how to do it, like he does it that one time and like doesn't like hurt himself or whatever. And All Might says, oh yeah, you're at about 5%. And Midoriya's like, what the heck? Like, he's got a long way to go. And that just makes me excited.
I cannot
on this journey. So
I cannot wait.
yeah. All right. So that is our top from the spring season. We are now journeying onward and upward into the summer.
You want me to rapid fire the crap?
What crap was that?
Oh my god! All right, yeah. So I, like I said, I went through the list a little bit, but I didn't really touch on them. So I'll just do the bad really quickly.
Okay, yeah. So here are shows you should avoid at all costs.
Yeah.
Shonen Hollywood. God, don't watch it.
Oh god. Look for. Oh yeah. Check out the review. I'm gonna make you watch the Twin Tail one too, Steph. I'm gonna make you watch that one. I'm gonna send it over to you to watch and review it.
I'm a good contributing member. You guys see this abuse. This isn't fair.
Hey, I gave you Seraph of the End. You earned the rest of this punishment. All right.
Fine.
What is it, Archmage?
All right. So from top to bottom, so we got Lost Village. Boring. Watched 6 episodes, and all I could think of the show was it's M. Night Shyamalan getting to write an anime. Then he hodgepodged every single one of his movies together and gave us this.
Okay.
100. It's Infinite Stratos with worse art. Next, please. Tanaka-kun is listless. I said it in the beginning. If I wanted to watch Tanaka-kun, I would turn it off and watch Tonari no Seki-kun instead.
I'm disagreeing, but okay.
Objection.
Oh yeah.
That's awful too, guys.
Ace Attorney.
By the
you
way,
should know by now. It is dangerously bad. Ace Attorney. Avoid it at all costs. Moving on.
Moving on. Cerberus. I gave it 3 episodes to grip me. It didn't. It had potential to be junk food, but it turned into gas station resale snacks.
Ooh.
Big Order. I didn't really get this series. It's totally disjointed. The tone is all over the place. Character motivations seem really, really odd, and people do things for the stupidest reasons. I feel like the series wanted to be a hentai but couldn't get the okay to go there. And finally, the one that almost made my number one disappointing series was Asterisk War Season 2. And all I'm going to say for this is my junk food gave me food poisoning.
Oh, yeah, that's bad. All right, so summer season's coming up. Personally, I am super excited for Berserk. I know a lot of people have been looking forward to the continuation of the Berserk series in animated form, and it's finally here. No more reboots, no more going back to the Golden Age arc over and over again. We're actually going to see more of the Black Swordsmen. And if you think being Subaru is suffering, wait until you see Berserk. So I am looking forward to that one. Scarlett, do you have any that you're really looking forward to for the summer?
You know what? After spring burned us so bad, I'm a little hesitant to get on this hype train. But I'm vaguely interested in 91 Days, which looks like it's just basically a revenge story, mafia status. It looks like it's going to be a whole lot of fun. And also, because I didn't get on the One Punch Man hype train, I am getting behind Mob Psycho 100. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, definitely. I need to do some more research on it, and we will be at Anime Expo this weekend checking it out as well. Look forward to our coverage, and I will definitely be checking it out. That will probably bump up to my top spot, but we'll see. What about you, Archmage?
Oh, you want my list? I've got my list.
Oh God,
it'll be fast.
Who are you, Johnny?
He's
Carson?
like, everything that's actually on the season's my list.
No, that's not true.
What's your list?
All right.
Let's hear it.
So, Shokugeki no Soma, yes please. New season coming out. It's like up there with My Hero Academia as far as I'm concerned with how much I like it.
Wow. Okay.
Real life looks really interesting. So we saw a darker version of this concept with Erased, and this seems more like a day in the life. I'm kind of interested in it, and I'd like to see where it goes with that.
Tired of people dying is what I hear.
Yes, exactly. So Orange, I think it has promise. Not sure how you're going to keep suspense if they have access to everything at once. So if anybody's seen Doctor Who, River Song has the Journal of the Doctor, which kind of details out everything that he's ever done, and that's kind of where they're going with this. Letters from the future from her future self, which tell her a sequence of events that are going to happen to see if she can kind of change it to not have regrets. We'll see. I don't know how they're going to make that happen, but it definitely has promise. Mob Psycho 100. One Punch Man was a pleasant surprise to me. Unlike the rest of you guys, I hadn't seen it until you guys were just like, "Oh yeah, you should go watch it. It's awesome." And then I did, and it was awesome. So I'm kind of hoping. I do have expectations for Mob Psycho 100. Hopefully, you guys have a good feeling from it after the release this weekend. 91 Days, period revenge story. I'll try it again. I liked Genro Rakugo, but I wasn't happy with how Joker came out, so let's try this again, shall we? Berserk. I'm not a big fan of the Berserk series as you are. I don't know why you guys like it so much.
I love it.
I'll give it a shot.
It's great.
I'll give it a shot,
fantasy,
but I'm not...
Man. Like, you know why I like it? Okay, you know why I like it? Because we don't see a lot of shows like this. Like these epic fantasy shows anymore, like Record of Lodoss War used to be, and that sort of thing. Like we get a lot of like the Sword Art Online and like more like modern, and so I like the more medieval, classical fantasy universes. Even though Berserk goes super dark with it, I think that's
why Berserk has such a big cult base too. Because when it first launched a couple years ago, no series really went that dark. Just a handful had really went down that path. Berserk took it to that level and made it mainstream.
I enjoyed Berserk enough. I think my biggest problem with it is they showed us episode 1 where you had Guts doing some really badass things, and then it went into flashback mode and never went back to the present. So I was constantly like, okay, we're going to get back to the present, right? We're going to get back to where he's a total badass, right? Right? And then it never happened. And then at the end of the series, it just got really weird. And I was kind of like, where the hell did this come from? And I hadn't read the manga, so I don't really know where it goes. Again, I'll give it a shot, but I'm not as bound by nostalgia as you are on this one.
Okay, and the original series came out in 97.
Yeah, 97. 20 years ago.
About 20 years ago. Yeah.
Wait, is that 97 Japan and then like 8 years later in the States, right? I mean, yeah, like 10 years later in the States.
No, Berserk. Well, not 10 years later, 6 years. There was a complete box set out.
Yeah,
in
there
the
was
US
there
by
was a.
2003.
We're
So-
not that old. Patrick might be, but
Thanks. Yeah, I just had my birthday, and now I'm.
happy birthday!
I got there first.
Yeah,
All right.
Right.
Cool.
So, anyways, Taboo Tattoo looks like it's going to be junk food. I hope so. With so many serious series this season, I need something that I can numb out to, and hopefully, Taboo Tattoo is that. Servamp, another junk food. We'll see, but it looks cheap. I'm probably not going to keep on this one. I'm guessing it's going to be garbage. Nejimaki Senrei Senki. It could be a cool, gritty series like Attack on Titan, or it could be something mindless like Anti-Magic Academy. But it's got that war unit type vibe going for it, and that's always entertaining to see.
Did you see the
Arslan's-
whole summer list?
I think he did.
I did not. Shut up.
you.
I only have 6
He's
more.
like,
Shut up.
There's
6
two
more?
missing. There's two
Yes.
missing.
Shut up.
Okay.
No, there's not. It's like a
Okay.
dozen.
Oh my God.
Arslan-
Continue.
Arslan Senki. Arslan had a first season, I guess. I didn't know that. I love the manga, so I'll have to go back and find it. Amama no Izuma. Oh my god, this looks like it's going to be a gut punch. I'm not crying, you're crying series. Probably a little bit like Erased was. So I'm
Erased honestly wasn't that emotionally draining. Like,
I meant-
we're not talking
I guess-
Clannad or Angel Beats level here.
No, but I feel like it's going to be at least the relationship between the main character and the kid is going to be something similar to that feeling, I guess. But we'll see. That's probably a totally bad analogy, and I'll go back on it. But
Where
whatever.
you're crying over breakfast.
Exactly. Then there's a new game. I really liked Shirobako, and I really hope this has the same tone to it, but with like a video gaming type flair to it. Then we have Battery and another one, Days. I have a soft spot for sports anime. It's like my guilty pleasure, so I'm looking forward to having something now that Kuroku and Use of the Diamond are gone. And finally,
I just
And
imagine
finally-
Archmage at home like eating ice cream and watching Swim Free.
I haven't
And
watched
just like and
Free
has
yet.
he has like a body pillow and like
Haruka senpai.
Ah, you guys suck.
Oh my gosh, I'm gonna get you a
We're gonna get you a Haruka
Kuroku.
body.
I'm gonna get you a Kuroku's basketball body
Oh,
pillow
I hate you
for your
guys.
birthday.
That series was awesome. You don't even know.
Okay, Archmage.
Okay.
Okay, we got 3 more to
Finally.
go, I think.
No. This is the last
Last one.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
We got
Last
like
one,
a
all
minute
right?
left. We got a minute to go.
And this-
Let's go.
And this one I'm actually really excited for. Sakaki Kuso no Sainan. It might be junk food, but I'm hoping it's more like a nice little series, kind of like Charlotte, Yamada-kun, or Myriad Color Phantom World was. More episodic, but still really, really interesting. And that's one that I have high on my list of what I'm excited for in the series. So yes, I know, summer 2016, a lot of things. You guys can suck it. I'm looking forward to 2016.
Yeah,
you
I'm
guys can be
sorry.
downers. I don't care.
Sorry if I work too hard for you. Okay. Well, thank you guys all for tuning in, listening. That is our spring season wrap up. Make sure to tune in for our Anime Expo coverage over the weekend. And as always, keep on coming back to mythicalentertainment.com for your anime and video game news. Have a good one, nerds.
Bye.